The neon sign of Rose's Diner flickered against the wet pavement, casting red shadows across the empty parking lot. It was 2:47 a.m., and the city had that dangerous kind of quiet, the kind that made smart people lock their doors. Kenjiro Tanaka buttoned his tailored black suit jacket and stepped out into the November cold. Behind him, the diner's warmth faded as the door swung shut. His two guards, Ryo and Nash, flanked him immediately, their eyes scanning the darkness like hunting dogs. "Boss, car's ready," Ryo said, nodding toward the sleek black Lexus idling 30 feet away. Kenjiro barely acknowledged him. His mind was elsewhere, on the meeting he'd just left, on the deals that would reshape the city's territory, on the enemies he'd crushed to get here. At 34, he had built an empire from his father's crumbling legacy. Blood, strategy, and an iron will had made him untouchable. Or so he thought. His polished leather shoes clicked against the asphalt as he approached the Lexus. The driver, one of his most trusted men, sat rigid behind the wheel, engine purring. Everything looked normal. Everything felt wrong. Kenjiro's hand reached for the door handle. "Don't get in the car." The scream shattered the silence like gunfire. Kenjiro's hand froze. His guards drew weapons instantly, whirling toward the source. From the diner's side entrance, a young black woman burst into the parking lot, her waitress apron still tied around her waist, her dark hair wild around her face. "Don't! Please, don't open that door," she gasped, running toward them with terrified desperation. "Stay back." Nash aimed his pistol at her chest. But Kenjiro raised a hand, stopping him. Something in the woman's eyes, pure, unfiltered terror, made him pause. In his world, fear was currency. He knew real from fake. This was real. "Ryo," Kenjiro said quietly, his voice like gravel. "Open the door." Cautiously, gun raised, Ryo approached the Lexus and yanked open the back door. Two men exploded from inside the car, assassins who'd been crammed into the footwell. One lunged at Ryo with a knife while the other raised a shotgun toward Kenjiro. The parking lot erupted in chaos. Kenjiro moved with the fluid precision of a man who'd survived decades in a world where hesitation meant death. His hand swept inside his jacket, drawing his pistol in one smooth motion. He fired twice, center mass, the way his father taught him. The shotgun-wielding assassin crumpled before he could pull the trigger. Ryo grappled with the knife wielder, both men crashing against the car. Nash rushed forward, but a third attacker emerged from the driver's seat, firing wildly. The driver's body was slumped in the front, he'd been dead before they even walked outside. The waitress screamed and dropped to the ground, hands over her head. Kenjiro's second shot took the driver assassin in the throat. Ryo finally overpowered his attacker, slamming the man's head against the car door until he went limp. Then silence, just their ragged breathing and the hiss of the Lexus' punctured tire. Kenjiro approached the trembling waitress, still huddled on the ground. He stood over her, gun at his side, and for the first time, really looked at her. She was young, maybe 24, with a strength in her features that didn't belong in his world. Her name tag read Zora in faded letters. Her hands shook violently as she slowly looked up at him, her brown eyes wide with shock. "Get up," Kenjiro said, his voice cold. Zora struggled to her feet, pressing against the diner's brick wall, looking at the bodies, at the blood, at the man who just killed 3 people like it was nothing. He holstered his gun and stepped closer. "How did you know?" "I've seen them before," Zora's voice broke. "Those men. 2 years ago, they came to my family's restaurant in Detroit. They took my brother, Andre. They just took him." She choked on a sob. "I recognized the one with the knife. Same scar on his neck. I could never forget." Kenjiro studied her face, searching for lies. This girl was telling the truth, but that created a bigger problem. Ryo returned, slightly out of breath. "Perimeter's clear, boss. But we got to move. Cops will be here in 5 minutes." Kenjiro didn't take his eyes off Zora. Sirens wailed in the distance. He made his decision. Bring her. What? Zora's eyes went wide. No, I need to go home. Kenjiro grabbed her arm. You just witnessed a hit on me. You know their faces. You're coming with me, or you're dead by morning. Your choice. That's not a choice. It's the only one you've got. He pushed her toward a second car, a nondescript sedan. Please, she whispered, one last desperate attempt. I just wanted to save your life. Kenjiro paused, studying her tear-streaked face. That's exactly why you're coming with me, he said. He shoved her into the back seat and climbed in after her, leaving the bodies, the blood, and the only life Zora had ever known behind. The car's tires squealed as they disappeared into the city's dark heart, and Zora realized with growing horror that she'd just traded one nightmare for another. The sedan tore through the city's empty streets. Zora sat pressed against the door, as far from Kenjiro as the back seat allowed. Her whole body shook. Nash twisted in the passenger seat, watching her like she might explode. Who do you work for? Nash's voice was sharp. How much did the Kimura clan pay you? I don't know what you're talking about. Zora's voice rose in panic. Enough, Kenjiro's single word silenced the car. He sat perfectly still, his blood-spattered suit looking black in the darkness. We'll get answers at the estate. Please, just let me go home, Zora pleaded. I won't tell anyone. Your promises mean nothing. Kenjiro finally looked at her, his dark eyes holding an emptiness that terrified her. You're a liability now. The men who set that trap will know it failed. They'll know someone warned me, and they'll come looking. Then give me a bus ticket. I'll leave the city. And lead them straight to your family. Kenjiro's voice was almost gentle, which made it worse. You think they won't already be watching your apartment? Your mother's house in Detroit? I made 2 phone calls before we left that parking lot. Zora Washington, 26 years old. Your mother, Sharon, still lives on Grove Street. Your younger sister, Maya, is a sophomore at Wayne State. Tears streamed down Zora's face. Please don't hurt them. I don't hurt civilians, Kenjiro said flatly. But my enemies do. So until I know who you are, you're staying where I can see you. The car pulled through a gate hidden among trees and drove up a winding road to a massive house of stone and glass that screamed money and power. Armed men emerged from the shadows as the car stopped. Bring her inside, Kenjiro ordered. Guest room on the 3rd floor. Lock it. Boss, you sure? Rio grabbed Zora's arm, pulling her from the car. Could be a tracker on her. Then search her and take her phone. Kenjiro started toward the house, then paused. And Rio, she doesn't get hurt. Not until I decide what she is. Zora was dragged up marble steps into an interior of dark wood and priceless art, beautiful and cold like a museum. A woman in a black suit patted her down, removing her phone, her keys, even the pen from her apron. She was led up a grand staircase to the 3rd floor and locked in a room that looked like a luxury hotel suite, a beautiful prison. Why are you doing this? Zora had turned to Kenjiro, desperation overriding fear. I saved your life. Maybe, Kenjiro leaned against the doorframe, studying her. Or maybe you're exactly what my enemies wanted, an innocent-looking girl to make me lower my guard. My driver had a wife and 2 kids. Someone gave those assassins my schedule, my location. Someone betrayed me. And until I know who, everyone is a suspect. He stepped closer. So, tomorrow, you will tell me everything about the men who took your brother. Every detail. Because either you're lying and working with my enemies, or you're telling the truth, and you're the key to finding who's trying to kill me. And if you don't believe me, she whispered. His expression didn't change. Then you won't leave this room alive. The lock clicked, a sound like a coffin closing. Zora slid down the wall and buried her face in her hands. Hours ago, her biggest worry was making rent. Now, she didn't know if she'd live to see tomorrow. For 2 days, Zora was questioned by a thin, silver-haired man named Mr. Soto, Kenjiro's advisor. He was polite, methodical, and utterly unnerving. Zora told him everything about Andre, about the men who took him, about the scar on the assassin's neck. She relived the worst day of her life over and over. On the third evening, Rio appeared at her door. "Boss needs you downstairs." Zora's heart hammered as she followed him to a private sitting room. Kenjio sat on a leather couch, his shirt unbuttoned. Blood seeped through a bandage wrapped around his ribs. "Close the door," Kenjio said. They were alone. "You're bleeding," she stated, her brain unable to process anything else. "One of the assassins got me with his knife," he grimaced. "My doctor is out of the city. Hospitals ask questions. Mr. Soto says you told him you were pre-med for a year before your family's restaurant went under. Is that true?" Zora nodded slowly. "Then you know how to stitch." He gestured to a professional-grade first aid kit on the coffee table. "So either you help me, or I bleed out on this couch. Your choice." This was insane. He'd held her prisoner, threatened her, and now he wanted her to save his life. But looking at the blood, she knew he wasn't exaggerating. "Fine," she heard herself say. "But I need better light, and you need to lie flat." Her hands shook as she pulled on latex gloves and peeled away the bloody bandage. The wound was an ugly 4-inch gash. "This is going to hurt," she warned. "I've had worse." His torso was a map of scars, bullet wounds, knife marks. This was a man who'd survived things that would kill most people. She began to clean the wound, and Kenjio didn't flinch, but she saw his jaw clench. "Tell me something," he said through gritted teeth as she began the first stitch. "Why'd you really scream that night? You could have stayed silent. Safer for you." "Because letting someone die when you can stop it makes you just as guilty," she replied, her fingers finding their old rhythm. Philosophical for a waitress. "My father was a good man. He taught us that silence in the face of evil is its own kind of evil." Something shifted in Kenjio's expression, surprise, or maybe recognition. They fell into silence as Zora worked, stitch by stitch. She was close enough to feel the heat radiating from his skin, close enough to notice he was watching her with an intensity that had nothing to do with pain. "You're good at this," he said quietly. "I wanted to be a surgeon. Guess life had other plans." She tied off the final stitch and bandaged the wound with clean gauze. When she looked up, he was still watching her, not with suspicion anymore, but something else, something that made her breath catch. "Thank you," he said, the words sounding foreign to him. "You should rest," Zora said, needing distance. "You're not invincible. That wound could have killed you." "Kenjio," he said. She turned back. "What?" "Call me Kenjio. Mr. Tanaka was my father." His eyes never left hers. "And Zora?" "Mr. Soto confirmed your story. You're telling the truth about your brother." Zora's heart stopped. "So, I can go home?" Kenjio's expression darkened. "No. Because now I know something else. The men who took your brother are part of the Kimura clan, the same people trying to kill me. Which means you're not just a witness anymore." He stood, moving closer despite the pain. "You're bait. And they'll come for you. The only place you're safe is here, with me. That's not safety. That's a different kind of cage. Maybe," his voice dropped lower. "But at least in this cage, you're alive. Go back to your room. Tomorrow, things change. You want to find your brother. I want to find who's trying to kill me. Tomorrow, we start looking for answers, together." The next morning, Zora stood in Kenjio's study, surrounded by angry men. On his desk sat a manila envelope. "Word got out that I survived." Kenjio's eyes were cold as he looked at Zora. "My enemies know someone warned me. They've identified you from the diner's security cameras. And they know you're here," Nash added viciously. "Which makes us all look weak." "Enough," Kenjio's voice cracked like a whip. He opened the envelope and pulled out a photograph of Zora's mother, Sharon, walking out of her house in Detroit, a red circle drawn around her head. More photos followed, her sister Maya leaving class, her tiny apartment, the door marked with a red X. "There's a note," Kenjio said flatly, and read, "Hand over the girl by midnight tomorrow, or everyone she loves dies. You should have died in that parking lot, Tanaka. Now you'll watch your empire crumble first." It's signed, K, for Kimura. "This is Goro Kimura himself," Mr. Soto said. "He's declaring war." "Then give her to them." Nash exploded. "Cut our losses. We can't go to war over some girl. She saved my life." Kenjio's voice was dangerously quiet. "And now she's going to cost us everything. If you give me to them," Zora heard herself say, voice shaking, "will they leave my family alone?" "No," Mr. Soto answered before Kenjio could. "They'll kill all of you anyway. The threat isn't negotiable." "There's a third option," Ryo spoke up. "We move her family. Get them somewhere safe." "Then what do we do?" one of the other men asked. Everyone looked at Kenjio. He stared at the photographs, his hand unconsciously moving to his ribs where fresh stitches held him together. "Get her family," Kenjio said finally. "Now. Ryo, take your best team to Detroit. Extract the mother and sister. Bring them here." "Boss, that's," Nash started. "Not negotiable." Kenjio's voice was steel. "I want every property we own locked down. If Kimura wants a war, we'll give him 1 inch. Over her?" Nash gestured at Zora with disgust. "Over the principal," Kenjio corrected coldly. "I don't negotiate with terrorists. I don't hand over people under my protection. Goro Kimura tried to kill me and failed. Now he's trying to use fear to manipulate me. If I give in, every crew in this city will think I'm weak. So no, we are not handing her over." The room was silent. Then, one by one, the men nodded. The room emptied until only Zora and Kenjio remained. "You should have given me to them," Zora whispered. "That's not your decision to make." Kenjio walked around the desk, standing over her. "You saved my life. You stitched me up. You're not a liability, Zora. You're my responsibility now. I don't want to be your responsibility. Too late. Your mother and sister will be here by evening. And tomorrow, when Kimura comes for you, he'll find an army instead of a victim." "Why?" she asked. "Why risk everything?" Kenjio was quiet for a long moment. "Because the men who took your brother are the same ones who tried to kill me. And because," he stopped, something flickering in his expression, "I'm tired of being the man who only survives. Maybe it's time to be the man who saves someone." The attack came at 3 a.m. Zora saw them first, shadows in the trees moving toward the mansion. She pounded on her door, screaming. It flew open and Nash stood there, gun drawn. "There are men outside." The window behind Zora exploded as a grappling hook crashed through. Nash shoved her down as gunfire erupted from outside. An alarm screamed through the mansion. A figure swung through the broken window, masked and armed. Nash engaged him, but a second attacker came through behind the first. Zora scrambled away as a third attacker appeared in the hallway, cutting off her escape. He was massive, a black mask covering his face. "Kimura sends his regards," he said, grabbing Zora's arm with crushing force. Something inside Zora snapped. Her free hand shot out, grabbing a heavy crystal lamp. She swung it with all her strength, smashing it against the man's head. The lamp shattered. He stumbled, and she swung again with the lamp's base, catching him in the temple. He dropped like a stone. She turned to see Nash pinned by the other attacker, being choked. She brought the lamp base down on his skull. Once. Twice. The man slumped sideways. The door exploded inward. Kenjio burst through with Ryo and 3 other guards. He took in the scene instantly, 2 attackers down, Nash barely conscious, and Zora standing over them with a blooded lamp, shaking but alive. "Clear the floor," Kenjio barked. "Ryo, get Mrs. Washington and Maya to the safe room. Now!" More gunfire erupted from below. The mansion had become a war zone. Kenjiro grabbed Zora's shoulders. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. "Stay close to me." They moved into the hallway, which was littered with bodies. An explosion rocked the mansion, and the lights died, replaced by dim red emergency lighting. "Rio, take Zora to the safe room," Kenjiro commanded. "Everyone else, with me. We end this now." "Those men want me," Zora said, grabbing his arm. "If I hide, your people die protecting me." "That's their job," Kenjiro's hand covered hers briefly. "And mine is keeping you alive." He paused at the top of the stairs. "And Zora?" "Thank you for choosing to fight." Then he disappeared into the chaos, and Zora realized with startling clarity that she wasn't afraid for herself anymore. She was afraid for him. Dawn broke over the destroyed estate. All 12 attackers were dead or captured. Zora found Kenjiro in his study, his shirt torn and bloodied. "It's over," he said. "He's back to her. For now." Mr. Soto interrogated one of the survivors. "Kimura wants you alive. You're a symbol now. If he parades you in front of the other families, it destroys my reputation." "Then give me to him," she said, knowing it was pointless. "No." Kenjiro turned, his eyes blazing. "When I saw you standing over those attackers with that lamp, I realized something. You're not a liability. You're a fighter. And fighters are valuable." He moved closer. "We stop pretending you're an innocent I'm protecting. You want to find your brother. I want to destroy Goro Kimura. Our goals align." He held out his hand. "An alliance. You give me everything you know, and I use my entire organization to find out what happened to Andre." Zora stared at his outstretched hand. This was insane, but her world was already insane. She took his hand. "Deal." The discovery that broke the case came from Zora herself. Buried in files, she found a photo of a restaurant in Detroit. "I know this place. It opened right after we closed, 2 blocks from my family's restaurant." Mr. Soto checked his notes. "Owned by a front for the Kimura clan. It's a money laundering operation." "They replaced us," Zora said. "What if Andre saw something? Not just at our place, but at others?" They found Andre's best friend, David Chen, whose family had also been driven out of business. "I tried to stop him," David sobbed when they questioned him. "Andre saw them counting money, saw packages that weren't food. He figured out they were using all our family's restaurants for money laundering. An FBI agent, a woman named Harper, approached him. She was building a RICO case. Andre thought if he cooperated, the FBI would protect your family." Zora felt like she'd been punched. "He disappeared 2 days before he was supposed to testify," David cried. "I saw the van. I saw Gyro, the man with the scar, drag him inside." Outside, Zora collapsed against Kenjiro, 2 years of guilt and grief pouring out. "He died because of me," she wept. "Listen to me," Kenjiro said, holding her tight. "Andre made his own choice. A brave one. You can't carry that guilt." He pulled back, his mask completely gone. "My father was murdered when I was 19. Betrayed. I had 2 choices, become ruthless enough to survive, or die. In my world, you can't trust anyone, can't let anyone close. I've been alone for 15 years. Zora's hand moved to his face. "You're not alone right now." The air between them crackled. He looked at her, truly seeing her. "Zora," he said, his voice rough, "this is a bad idea. I destroy everything I touch." She kissed him, a desperate, fierce kiss between 2 broken people. He responded instantly, his hand sliding into her hair, deepening the kiss with an intensity that stole her breath. Late that night, Zora overheard Kenjiro and Mr. Soto in the study. "Someone tipped off Kimura," Mr. Soto's voice was sharp. "I traced offshore accounts. Payments totaling $500,000 over the past year. They belong to Nash." Zora's blood froze. The payments coincide with every failed operation, Mr. Soto continued. The shell company that owns the accounts is the same one that owned the warehouse where your family left the ransom money, Zora. I think Nash has been working with Kimura for years. Footsteps sounded behind her. The boss was a fool, Nash said, appearing at the end of the hall, gun drawn, flanked by 3 other guards. You hear something interesting, little waitress. He fired. The bullet hit the wall inches from her head. Kenjio exploded from the study, weapon raised. Nash! Put the gun down. Can't do that, boss, Nash smiled. Goro Kimura sends his regards. He wants her alive. And you dead? He gestured to Endre. That kid? Kimura wanted to kill him, but I convinced him he was worth more alive. Leverage. He's been rotting in a black site for 2 years. He's alive. Zora's voice broke. For now, Nash's smile was cruel. After you're dead, he's next. He nodded to his men. As they raised their weapons, Zora moved without thinking, throwing herself into Kenjio. They hit the ground as gunfire erupted. Zora felt a searing pain in her shoulder, but ignored it as Kenjio returned fire with deadly precision. 2 of Nash's men went down. The 3rd caught Kenjio in the side. Rio appeared behind Nash, his own weapon pressed to Nash's skull. Drop it. This isn't over. Nash snarled. Rio pulled the trigger. Zora pressed her hands against Kenjio's wound. Stay with me, please. Your brother, Kenjio's face was pale. He's alive. We'll find him. His hand found hers. Wasn't planning to die. Not when I finally found someone worth living for. Then he collapsed. Kenjio survived. For 10 days, Zora never left his side, nursing him back to health. As he healed, their connection deepened. Finally, Mr. Soto found it, a warehouse complex in Indiana. It was a black site. I'm going, Zora said. Kenjio looked at the woman who had saved his life twice, who had refused to abandon him. You stay behind me at all times, he said. The assault was brutal and efficient. They fought their way to a basement corridor lined with steel cells. Endre! Zora screamed. A weak voice answered. Zora? They found him huddled in a filthy cell, thin, beaten, but alive. He collapsed into his sister's arms, sobbing. They were halfway out when an explosion rocked the building, separating them from Kenjio. Through the smoke, a figure approached, Goro Kimura. Well, well, he said, gun aimed at Zora's head. You've caused me considerable trouble. He raised his gun toward Endre. Time to eliminate my mistakes. Gunfire erupted, but not from Kimura. Kenjio was through the smoke, his aim perfect. The bullet caught Kimura in the shoulder. You should have killed me when you had the chance, Kenjio said, advancing with cold fury. You made this personal. Kill me and the other families will come for you. I'm not going to kill you. Kenjio's smile was without warmth. You're getting federal prison. Agent Harper has been very cooperative. Your black site, your traitor, Andre's testimony, it's all she needs. Sirens wailed outside. The FBI had been waiting. An hour later, Zora stood outside the hospital where Andre was being evaluated. Kenjio was waiting by a black SUV. How is he? Kenjio asked. He'll survive. Thanks to you. My counsel wants me to cut you loose, Kenjio said. Eliminate any connection between your family and my organization. Zora's heart sank. And I told them no. He took her hand. You saved my life. You helped me destroy my most dangerous enemy. You're not a liability, Zora. You're an asset. More than that, you're someone I trust. Kenjio, what are you saying? I'm saying I want you to stay. Your family, Andre. I'll set you up. Protection, security. A place in my organization, if you want it. You're smart, brave, resourceful. Your world almost got me killed, she whispered. It did, his smile was slight but genuine. But you're still here. Still fighting. That means something. What about us? She asked quietly. That's your choice, his thumb brushed across her knuckles. My world isn't safe or normal. But if you want to try, I'm willing to risk it. Zora thought about everything she'd lost, and everything she'd gained. Strength, purpose, and a man who looked at her like she was the most important person in his dangerous world. Yes, she said, squeezing his hand. I'll stay. He pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her as naturally as breathing. You didn't just save my life that night, Zora. You became part of it. As the sun rose, painting the city in gold, Zora Washington realized her life would never be normal again. But standing there in Kenjio's arms, her brother alive and her family safe, she discovered she didn't want normal anymore. She wanted this. She wanted him. And for the first time in her life, she was exactly where she belonged.